What are the best types of builds, Kami? What is it? Is it skill builds? Is it tank builds? Is it DPS builds? Well, what about armor regeneration builds? I mean, what is it that is the king over all? And every single time for all types of content, whether it be PvP or PvE, all the way up to legendary, time and time again, I answer with status effects. Status effects is by far the best thing in the game. Here, let me show you some examples why. What's going on, YouTube? Kamikazevondoom here with another Division 2 video, so sit back, relax, grab that popcorn, don't forget to hit that like, subscribe if you haven't already, and let me know what you think in the comment section below, and finally, shout out where you're from. It's cool to see where everyone is from. I mean, hell, dude, I just saw someone from Cairo. Cairo? Yo, shout out to Cairo. I mean, come on, man, that's amazing. But anyways, in today's video, I'm going to break down my top 3 status effects builds. I'm going to explain why I use them the way I do, and hopefully that will help you understand why status effects is so strong in this game. And even more so this season with the active modifiers, and I'll talk about that as well. So let's go ahead and jump right in. First, let's talk about these modifiers. Why are the modifiers so good right now for status effects? So let's start with the active modifiers, okay? So the active modifiers, there are a few in here that have to do with status effects. So first up, you have sanitation. This is by far my favorite for this season. Sanitation will catch everyone on fire around you. Burn status effect is probably one of the best status effects in the game. It makes it to where they can't shoot you, they can't really move that fast, and they're just sitting there on fire, so you can just face tank them. I mean, it's really nice. So sanitation, right off the bat, boom, there's fire. But hey, there's say cheese, where it blinds everybody. So you're able to either burn everyone around you or blind everyone around you. I mean, both of these are great status effects, and both of them make it very easy to just face tank the enemy and take them down. And this is just all for, just this season, right? So you're able to just keep using status effects. Now, another cool thing, if you go under your passive modifiers, right? So your passive modifiers here, some of these are pretty unique. Speaking of which, look at this one. It's called Stepping Stone. So eliminating a assault enemy with a headshot will add hollow point ammo to your build. Now, just so you know, hollow point ammo is amplified weapon damage with bleed. So it's yet another status effect. So that not only makes the enemy bleed, so you're making another form of damage right there, but the hollow points are amplified weapon damage, so you're hitting them even harder. I mean, this is just redonkulous, the amount of status effects that is in this season. Now, that was just the universal modifiers. Let's talk about the faction modifiers. So this one right here for the True Sons is called Quicksand. Now, for this one, you know those foaming enemies? Well, for this one, if you take out one of their weak points, the little red, what's it called? Like the red bottle on their back or whatever. The red canister. If you take that out, it will then apply a foam to all other enemies within 20 meters. Yet another amazing status effect to use. Then we have Scorched Earth for the Outcast, where if you break the Scorcher's canister on their back, it applies a burn to everybody. I mean, this is just, it's overwhelming how amazing it is. Here's another one, Rikers. When a leader is eliminated, all enemies within 80 meters are affected by the leader's overheal suffer bleeding. Yeah. I mean, it's just nonstop with the status effects, right? So this makes it to where it's like, hey, use status effects. Make status effects your friend. Here's another one. It's called Bad Reception. Destroying a controller's drone will break their weak point and shock all other enemies within 20 meters. all of this. So you have shock, you have burn, you have foam, you have bleed, you have, what's another one? Oh yeah, hollow point ammo. I mean, the list goes on. Now that's just your modifiers, right? I haven't even gotten into my top 3 skill builds because just the modifiers alone make it to where status effects is your friend. Status effects is king in this game. Now, how do you make status effects work for you in different ways? Well, that's where this exotic mask comes into play. So this exotic mask is probably one of the best exotics to use for status effects builds, bar none. It is by far one of the best. I think it's the best in my opinion, but I'm sure there's some weird combination I'm not thinking of right now that might be, good as well. But the reason why the Vile Mask is so good, in my opinion, is for the talent Toxic Delivery. So status effects will also deal a damage over time debuff. So this is where stuff gets real, all right? Because now it's not just annoying that you're getting on a status effect, right? But now it's going to deal even more damage because of the Vile Mask. So now, whenever you pop your active modifiers, you get that free status effect and you get this free damage at the same time. Again, we're not even talking about the builds yet. This is just a modifier. You could put this one mask on any build and put on those modifiers that I showed you, and this mask will still do its job. It'll create another type of damage over time and take out your enemies even faster. Now, the trick with this mask is 2 things. Either explosives damage or status effects. That is key for this mask to make it shine. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, the second part of Toxic Delivery, it says that the total damage is equal to 50% of your concussion grenade. Now, your concussion grenade is just a normal grenade, okay? It's just a normal explosion. That's it. It's pretty cut and dry. So what the Vile Mask is saying is you take half of the damage of your concussion, right? So this one, for example, is at 1.4, and then half of that is 700k. So just from the Vile Mask alone, I would then be able to deal 700,000 damage to any enemy once I apply a status effect. And that is just from the mask. But wait, there's more, because the explosives damage. In my testing and over the years of trying this out, explosives damage is first, followed by status effects. So if you can increase your explosives damage with a status effects build using the Vile Mask, you'll be able to deal even more damage over time with that debuff than you would the status effect, which then makes it even more deadly because now you're dealing twice the amount of damage just using status effects. Now, I know this might sound, very complex, and I'm sure I'm confusing some of you. So let me just explain what I mean here. So this build, this is going to be one of my top 3 status effects builds. So if you're going to try to timestamp it or whatever, you can, but I make these videos to where if you consume it from start to finish, you get all the information you need, and then you never have to skip around. It's just a one-stop shop. You're good to go. Now this is a pure status effects build. So like I was saying, it's either explosives damage or status effects. This one is full tilt, all status effects. That's what this build is all about. It has no explosives damage on it, but it has all the status effects. Now, when you look at the concussion grenade, it's at 1.4 million. That's pretty standard for just a normal build. It can get up to 2 million and even higher than 2 million, but 1.4 million is typically your default. So that means we have the bare minimum for explosives damage, but then it says afterwards that it is increased by the amount of status effects on your build. So then you look at the build, and then we have Electric giving us status effects with more status effects as a bottom attribute on all of the Eclipse items. They are all status effects. That way it's increasing the vial mask even further. But these status effects will also make your skill stronger. So if it's a burn, it'll make the burn stronger. If it's a bleed, it'll make the bleed stronger, what have you. So what you're doing is you're doubling up on your damage. You're basically speccing into status effects, making your skills, beefier, but then you're also making your vial mask beefier. So then you're increasing both of the damages, whether it be the burn or the damage over time. But wait, there's more. Because with this build, I have the flamethrower, which is the firewall specialization. Now, what this has is a passive talent that increases your burn duration. Now, that is essentially one of your status effects, okay? It increases your burn over time. So what we're doing with this build is we are creating different types of damage and different types of ways to transfer the damage. So, we already talked about the vial mask, right? We already showed that everything is status effects. That helps the skills, it helps the vial mask. Now, going at the two different ways of damaging, we've already explained it. One is status effects and one's the damage over time. Now, the next part is how are we transferring the status effects in two different ways? One will be the gear set, Eclipse Protocol. So Eclipse Protocol with the 4-piece talent, it's called indirect transmission. So if you kill a status affected enemy, it will transfer that status to a different enemy. And then it'll do it again and again and again. So then you could just create a way to have everyone on status effects at all times. And not only that, but if you notice, when you have one enemy left or that enemy is about to die, what have you, the next spawn of enemies start to, roll in. Now, if you have that enemy on a status effect while the next spawn is rolling in, you could kill that one enemy and then catch all the new enemies on a status effect at the same time. And that's with Eclipse Protocol. And that's why it's so deadly. This build right here is what I use for all PvE content. I've done legendaries, I've done the strongholds, I've done raids, I've done the everything. I've done the summit legendary, I've done the hunters. Everything I have done with this one build. This is also my speedrun build. I can do speedruns with this build because what you do is you just get everyone on a status and you just run through the mission. It's really that simple. Now, the other way of transferring the status is the backpack talent. Now, the backpack talent is called Creeping Death, and this is very, very strong. I know a lot of people don't care about it, and they're just like, well, if you're using Eclipse Protocol, it's just going to transfer anyways. Just kill that enemy. Yeah, that could be true. And yes, it does transfer. However, if you are running into a room for the first time ever, and you have that initial set of ads, if you shoot one of them with a status, what are all the other ads going to do? They're going to run away. They're going to run into cover, or they're going to try to push you, okay? So right off the bat, they might be out of range to catch that status from the initial enemy. So what I do is I do, surprise, motherfucker! You know what I mean? And I run into the room, I hit them with a status, and because of Creeping Death, it goes to all enemies immediately. And like I said, if you have that one enemy left and then the next wave comes in, it'll transfer to all those enemies with Eclipse Protocol. So what you're doing is you're basically creating a situation where you catch everyone on a status initially, and then you can catch everyone on a status for the next wave as well. And it gets even better because we are using the capacitor. The capacitor is by far one of the best weapons for a skill build, period. Because using a skill build makes the weapon stronger, and using the weapon makes your skills stronger. There's no reason not to use this weapon. Because it says right here under the talent capacitance, shooting enemies will build up a stack, and each stack will give you skill damage. And then it follows up with For every skill tier, you get more weapon damage. So if we toggle over to our stats, we can see we're at 131 base damage. 131. Look at that. Compared to the Chameleon, that's nearly double. Come on. This is redonkulous. It's more than double the Lady Death. It's nearly double the Ouroboros. It's 40k higher than the Bullet King and the Iron Lung. Psh, it's 50k higher than the Pestilence. And that's just because we are using this with a skill build. So it makes the weapon very deadly, and the weapon makes your skills even more deadly. And yes, there is more. Because with the Vile Mask, all it is a status effect. It doesn't matter what type of status effect. It could be anything. Literally anything. You could pulse them and hurt the enemy with the Vile Mask. And that's exactly what I do here with this build combination. I use the Jammer Pulse because the Jammer Pulse is a status effect. It works on all enemies. And it's a tier 6. So it takes out all enemy skills. It takes out their healer boxes. It even staggers the enemy once you put them on a status effect. So you're disrupting them in their skills, and you're applying a damage over time debuff without doing anything. And that's before we talk about the modifiers and the Eclipse Protocol and the Creeping Death. And I mean, you can see how deadly status effects can really be. Now, on top of the Firewall specialization increasing that burn duration, you could use that with that Sanitation active modifier, burning more enemies, and then use that with the Burn Sticky. So we have the modifiers dealing status, so that's 2 or 3 at a time. Then we have our Sticky Bomb. Then we have our Pulse. So we have over 5 different ways of creating a status effect, making sure that our Vile Mask is working the whole time. It's a lot of fun. And this is just the first build. This is what I would call your cookie cutter PvE build, where you could use this for everything. This is your default build for everything PvE. If you use this in a group, they will love you because you make their lives so much easier by getting everyone on a status effect. Okay, so that's just build 1. All right, so let's jump into the next one. So the next build is the exact opposite. So you remember that I was saying with the Vile Mask, it's either explosives damage or status effects, and if you're nasty, you can try to do both, right? In this one, I do both, but I am highly spec'd into explosives damage. Now remember that last build, the concussion grenade was 1.4 million, right? This one is 2. So, right off the bat, the Vile Mask is not doing 700k damage. It's doing 1 million, baby. It's doing 1 million damage. But that's only the default damage. Because remember, at the bottom of Toxic Delivery, it says it is then increased by your status effects. So you go explosives damage first, and then status effects. So what I did with this build is I went with China Light. Because China Light not only gives you explosives damage, but it also gives you status effects. So you get the best of both worlds. Not only that, but yeah, I went super tryhard, and I got 2 pieces of Grupo with skill damage and status effects on both of them. And the reason for that is I needed to change the core attribute to a skill tier. That way I have the 6 skill tiers to go with this build. Now, right off the bat, some of you might be like, well, you know, if you use Technician, you get the +1 skill tier, right? So you technically don't need to make it all skill tiers. But yes, I do. Because I am using the Demolitionist specialization. So this is the one with the grenade launcher, right? Well, this also gives you more explosives damage. So you're able to get 15% from the China Light. You're able to get 20% from the Grupo, and I'm pretty sure it's 10% from the Demolitionist. So what is that? That's 15. Okay, so that's 35. Let's see how much we have. Yeah, so you get 10% from the Demolitionist. So we get 35% from the China Light and the Grupo, and we get 10% from the explosives damage passive talent from the specialization. Now, that's just increasing the explosives damage, right? This is all merely just to increase our Vile Mask damage over time debuff. Now, the way that I increase it even further with this build is with the Glass Cannon chest piece talent. Now, what this does is it amplifies all of our damage. Now, I'm not trying to transfer the status after a kill. I don't have Eclipse Protocol. So what I'm trying to do is I'm just trying to take out the enemies immediately. So what I did is I put Glass Cannon on to make the skills hit harder. I have all explosives damage to make the Vile Mask hit harder. And I have Creeping Death to spread it all immediately to take out all of the enemies as fast as possible. And that's the other side of the coin, right? Where the Eclipse Protocol was all status effects, everything. This one is explosives, damage, and status effects, everything. Now, there is a way to try to do the best of both worlds, right? And that's where we're going to go into my final status effects build. So this is probably one of my favorite status effects builds to use ever. It's so much fun. Please put this build together. Now, you don't need a secondary or sidearm weapon. It really doesn't matter. It's all about the Iron Lung. That's the only reason why I'm using this build. And we are using it with Umbra, the Vile Mask, and One Piece Petrov. Now, there are other ways of doing this. You could change the Petrov to China Light and get more explosives damage that way. But for this one, what we're doing is we're doing status effects with a little bit of explosives damage and more weapon damage for the weapon. Because this is not a skill build, this is a DPS, well, it's technically a tank DPS skill build. It's a hybrid. I mean, it's the best of both worlds. Let's be real. So what this does is it gives you another skill tier from the mask. So we have tier 1 skills. We use both bleeding skills, or, I mean, I guess you could use anything really for a status effect with the Vile Mask. But what I do is I'm using the Seeker Mine to track my enemy, and then I'm using the Stinger Hive just to apply bleed to everybody. But what this build is a full-on tank build, but once you get them on fire, it's a game changer. Because the fire will not only completely destroy the enemy just based off of the fire damage, but because we have the Vile Mask on top of it, we're going to be doing even more. Now, remember, the all status build had 1.4 million for the grenade. The all explosives damage had 2 million, right? This one is just a little bit above. It's at 1.5 million. So it's not quite the bottom default, and it's not the full tilt 2 million. So we're only doing, what, 750k damage on top of the burn. But this is also a DPS build. Like I said, it's the best of both worlds. Because we're using the Iron Lung at a 113k base damage, but this is a tank build yet again. And not only that, but because we are running Umbra with the Umbra chest piece, this gives us 100 stacks from the shadows, and that increases our RPM to 40%. And it increases our crit damage 120%. So yes, this is a DPS build, but it's in a form of a tank, and we have all status effects. This thing is unbelievable. It's so much fun. But I will stress, and I will warn you, it is only fun if you get them on a burn. That's it. It's only fun if you get them on a burn. The thing with the Iron Lung and this talent is that you have to get them on a burn. If you don't, the weapon's useless. So what am I talking about? Well, for the Iron Lung, if you shoot it, it heats up the weapon with like this heat meter, right? Now the heat meter is equal to half of your magazine. So technically, you have to shoot out the first half of your magazine no matter what. So a lot of people, what they do is they'll just start pre-firing, knowing that they have to shoot out half of their magazine. And then by the time they get to the enemy, they're already at the bottom half of their magazine, making them all burn. And that's where the build really shines, is with the status effects. That's what this video is all about. The top 3 ways to get them on status effects, and the top 3 builds that I use for status effects, because we all know that status effects is king. Because if you get them on a status effect and, like, say your friend or whatever is a sniper, it makes it so much easier for them to get the headshot. Or say they're using Striker or Heartbreaker. You getting them on a status effect will make it even easier for them to get their stacks up while they're freaking out on their status effect. I mean, it's a no-brainer, really. So I hope that this helped explain all the different ways of using status effects. I'm giving you 3 different examples. One is full explosives damage with some status effects. The other one is full status effects. And this one is like a hybrid where you're doing weapon damage, but you do have status effects as your ally. But that's it for me. I hope you enjoyed this little breakdown about status effects and why it's so sought after in the Division 2. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. I am Kamikazevondoom. Take care now. Bye-bye, Dan. And I'll see you in the next one, all right? Peace out. Oh, hey, before I get out of here, let me just show you what it looks like at the targeting range. It just dawned on me that I could easily just show you. So if you come over here, this is the Eclipse Protocol build that I showed you. This is build number 1, right? And like I said, you just have to use a jammer to get that damage over time debuff. So watch this. All right, so you see all those numbers? All of those numbers are the damage over time debuff. Because all I did was jam them. And you can see all the damage I'm doing to them just from jamming the enemy. And I can keep doing this. See? As soon as the status effects wears off, you can do it again and again and again. A lot of people, they'll sit behind walls or cover or whatever if they're like in legendary content, and they will just keep jamming the enemy just like this, doing a damage over time debuff. Now you can see this one's only at 71k to 80k, but here, check this out. If I put on that explosives damage one that I showed you earlier, right, this one. Now, let me put on the jammer. 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 There we go. So we were hitting for 71k and 80k, right? Now check it out. Now we're hitting for 129 and 145. Yeah. It is ridiculous. Look at this. Boom. 129k per. And that's just with the exotic mask. All right. Status effects is king. And if you didn't know, well, now you know. I'm Kamikazevondoom again. Take care of yourself. Enjoy the rest of your day, all right? I'll see you in the next one. Peace.